Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Arts Now Leadership Institute. It's just such a pleasure for me to see lots of new faces, lots of familiar faces returning from previous years, some ambassadors mixed in there. So fantastic to see everyone. My name is Adelaide Kuhn, and I am Program Director at Create California. So welcome again. This is, so for program staff at Create California, planning for this event is a moment when we look back at the previous year, as well as forward to the coming year in order to make sure that the programming for the Leadership Institute is meeting your needs in the field at this moment. And as I took time with the team and thought back on the last year, all of the challenges we all faced, all of the unknowns that we were working with, I felt so proud of the work that we were all able to accomplish together. In the last year, Arts Now leaders presented at virtual school board meetings. They organized student performances, virtual exhibitions of student work. You all leveraged established relationships that you had been working on for years. You built new relationships with school leaders, all in order to prevent cuts to arts education. You did things like help get arts education into district local control and accountability plans. And together you supported your fellow advocates during meetings, during our Arts Now meetups, those sorts of events and these kinds of trainings and breakout rooms. So I just want to take a moment to congratulate everyone on the work that you all have done. And let's just do a little Zoom round of applause if we can, because I really want to kick us off with a feeling of celebration.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as we as a team looked ahead to the coming year, for me, I see a very different picture, but one that nonetheless is going to have still a lot of unknowns that we're working with for sure. I think the one thing we know is that there will be unknowns, right? But as many of you know, or as you may know, this year, California schools will be receiving a truly historic amount of funding. And with this funding comes a real opportunity for us as advocates to make the case for how arts education plays a crucial role in supporting student mental health and wellness, in combating learning loss, improving engagement and attendance, and generally making school a place where students feel safe and a place where students want to be. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you, to learning from all of you, to connecting you to each other and supporting you however we can at Create California. So before we get started, I would like to introduce you to the Create California program team. So Chantal, you can shift us over to the next slide. There's me. You also see my colleague, Caitlin Lainoff, who's our program and communications manager. Caitlin is not on this session today. She'll be on all of the future sessions. So you will have the opportunity to meet her certainly in the near future. And I'll send it over to you, Chantal, to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today. My name is Chantal Odali Santoyo, for anyone who has not met me yet virtually. And I'm the administrative assistant here at Create California. Still getting used to saying Create California, not the Alliance, but it's a happy change. Nice to see everyone here. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to Alexia.
Hello, everybody. It's great to meet you. My name is Alexia Martin. I am the new Arts Now program manager at Create California. And just to give you a little bit of background, I have a background in drama therapy along with macro social work. I've worked with a diverse set of populations, from domestic violence survivors to advocating for college and prison programs, as well as providing mental health trainings for lawyers of immigrants. So I'm super happy and excited to be here with all of you.
Chantal, you could move on to the next slide.
Great,
Thank
thank you so much. So in order to center race and equity in our conversation today and work to create an inclusive space, we want to acknowledge the violence against and oppression of Indigenous people that is woven into the fabric of our country. Our intention is for this land acknowledgement to be an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory we reside on, and a way of honoring the Indigenous people who have been living and working on the land for hundreds of years and continue to live and work on the land today. It is essential that we each understand the history that has brought us to reside on the land and to seek to understand our place within that history. In the spirit of learning, we offer a tool that will help us all learn and remember the names of the tribes who lived on the land before we did. So as you can see on the screen, you can text your zip code to 1-855-917-5263, or you can also go to this website. We will put the link in the chat. So I invite you to please put your zip code on in the website or to text, and also you can drop that in the chat. So today, I reside on Muskogee land and Cherokee land. So we encourage everyone to consider their responsibilities to the people and land where they are on right now, to take action to stand in solidarity with Native, Indigenous, and First Nations people, and to actively disrupt all structures of oppression that reproduce ongoing colonial relations of violence and power. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Adelaide.
Thank you so much for that, Alexia, and thank you to everyone who's putting your acknowledgement in the chat. All right, Chantal, you can keep the screen share, but just take it out of present mode because we're going to populate this slide together right now. Okay, yeah, you can pull it up whenever you get a chance. Great, so before we get started, I really want to make sure we take some time to set meeting agreements together. We're going to be coming together regularly in September and throughout the next year. So I like to take some time here at our first meeting to lay these out for ourselves. And then at the beginning of each meeting, we'll take a look at them, see if they need any updating. These are important to make sure. We just want to make sure that this is a safe, respectful, comfortable space for everyone to participate in. So please put your suggestions in the chat, come off mute, however you feel comfortable contributing, but let's together populate this list. Chantal, are you able to pull it up not in share mode? You know what I mean? Not in present mode.
Yes, it's still coming up.
I don't see it. Do you see it?
Give me
No, I don't. Yeah, whenever, but go ahead. Where should we start? Does anyone have their go-to meeting agreement they like to put on these lists? Thanks, Chantal. Perfect. Don't everybody jump in at once. Throw glitter, not shade. Great one, Abe. That one, I've never heard that one before, but fantastic. Be respectful of time constraints. Thanks, Judy. Good one. Thanks, Amanda. Always an important give space, take space. Active listener. Thanks, Allison. Very important. Indy, what do you got? Assume positive intent while also checking for impact. 6.
Know when to step up or step back. Thank you. That's a great one.
Good. Great list.
Show your kids and pets.
Great one, Kimberly. That was on there last year. So important to get that back on there. I couldn't agree more.
Challenge the idea, not the person. That's a great one too. And then we have show up. Authenticity.
Font smaller here. Generous with praise. Good. Well, this is a great list. These stragglers, last ones to add. Like I said, we'll come back to it every session, read it through, make sure we're not forgetting something, that kind of thing. Great. All right. Thank you. Back to you, Alexia, to go over our agenda for our time together today.
All right, so today's agenda, we are going to start off with introductions and an icebreaker, which we will go out into breakout rooms. And then from there, we're going to have a high quality arts education visioning exercise. Then we will provide you with a nice mindfulness movement break. And then we will get into the arts ed ecosystem, have a reflection exercise, then another breakout. We'll leave some time for questions, and then we'll briefly go over some program logistics and important deadlines, and then we will have our closing. Perfect, so we can move on. Great. So we really want to build community, have a sense of community. So just to get you prepared for these breakout rooms, you are going to share your name, pronouns, and location. If you would like to now, you can add your pronouns to your name. But right before we go out into breakout rooms, if we can move on to the next slide. We have this emotion scale. So what you can do now is just to take a moment, try to locate yourself on the emotion scale. It may be a little small, so if you just have a color that you are feeling today, it kind of captures where you're at, that's perfect as well. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that or pick an emotion on this scale, and then from there, we'll go into breakout rooms, but don't worry, I will remind you of the different things that you're going to be sharing with your group. So I'm going to give you a moment right now to look at the scale. All right. Are we good? You can let me know in the chat, or also a little emoji saying that we're okay. So again, it's going to be your name, your pronouns, location, and the color that represents where you're at today. Perfect. So we're going to have about 5 to 7 minutes in these breakout rooms. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you were able to get to know each other a little bit better and start building your Arts Now community. We have this next interactive visioning exercise that we will do as an entire group. And we want to pose the question to you: what does a high quality arts education mean to you? So this will hopefully help us envision our goals and suspend any limits for the time being. And on the next slide, we will have an interactive word cloud where you'll be able to submit your ideas virtually. So this is very cool and easy. You can go to slido.com and enter the code you see, or you can take your camera and scan the QR code. And you'll be able to input multiple answers to this question, and we'll start seeing those answers appear on screen. Great. So I'm just going to give everybody a few moments to get their answers in, and then we'll have a little bit of time to speak about what we're seeing.
And you're able to put in multiple answers, so feel free to have this be a expansive brainstorm for yourselves.
Awesome. There are so many answers. This is great. And I believe that the words that are bigger are words that are being shared among the participants. Cool. Awesome. So we have a good set of answers. So I'm going to invite y'all to not be afraid and to join us. You can either unmute yourself or put your answers in the chat. So I'm wondering, in regards to what's on the screen, what are we seeing? What's popping up to you in regards to this question? Anything that's just like, wow, that word, or if it has any type of significance when we're thinking of this question. So something, oh, I think I hear an unmute.
Yes, okay, I'll talk. Yes, for us in our region, the equitable access is definitely crucial. The disparity of who's having access to the classes is very pronounced in our region. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are seeing inclusive, equitable access, definitely. Is there anything else that is just jumping off the page to someone?
I love that the words sequential and standards based and, qualified instructors, right? It's like you don't want, I mean, I had this experience in college where I went in to do a fiber arts class and the teacher showed up this macrame owl he'd done. And it's just like, okay, this is a college level class, right? So you want people who know what they're doing. And I love that that's come up.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see, is anybody else seeing anything that is resonating with them?
I just love it. I love that joyful and fun are bubbling up to the top as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Allison put in the chat, these have nothing to do with talent or accomplishments. They're meeting students where they are and honoring their uniqueness.
Awesome. Yeah, so what this is starting to make us think of what in regards, right, the purpose, the impact of arts, how is it accessible? Is there anything else that is coming up in regards to what do we think in regards to high quality arts education and its meaning, its purpose?
I think about it being intentional. So how are the programs intentional in engaging the students and opening up their minds and their hearts and using their senses in learning and learning about the art form, but also learning about themselves and each other.
Yeah, definitely that social emotional learning component, the therapeutic component, absolutely. Is there anything else that, is kind of bubbling in one's brain right now in regards to this question? If not, we can move on to the final kind of stage of this exercise, but I just want to make sure everybody's thoughts are being heard. I see some things popping up in the chat. I just want to make sure that I'm getting those because I'm currently sharing the screen, so I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, from Judy, we have transformative, and from Debbie, we have a long-term plan is critical, not random experiences.
Absolutely. Sustainability of access, equity, scaling, absolutely. So now we're kind of going into this final component in regards to what is this making us wonder in regards to a high quality arts education and what it actually means and how is that attainable? Possibly a question is forming in your head. If you feel comfortable, please, y'all have been doing great coming off mute. I love it. Or you could put it in the chat as well.
It seems like high quality would also include ownership and buy-in at all levels and consistency so that it's not one experience and then they can check the box off and say they're done.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I want to leave some more room for anyone else that, feels the spirit to speak. If not, we can move on. But one thing this is kind of making me wonder is we have through lines in everything that we're talking about, but also, right, we have different perspectives in regards to what high quality arts education could possibly mean. So I think that's a great segue to hand it off to Adelaide to kind of speak more in regards to that.
Thanks, Alexia. Yeah, we just really wanted to start with this question because we see it as a level setting exercise. So for everyone in this group has a unique idea about what a high quality arts education is and the various components of it, because it's all of these things. It's different subsets of all of these words that we've put together in this graphic. And I can promise you that everyone in your district, every member of your school board, likely every member of your coalition also has a slightly different idea or vision of what a high quality arts education is. And it's really important to ask this question and talk about this question with each of those groups. So ask the question, discuss the answer, and work together to come up with an understanding about what high quality arts education is in your particular context, in order to have clear and to be clear and directed in your advocacy and in your advocacy messages. Having this conversation, I just can't emphasize enough how important this is to explore this question with your coalition. There's also another layer of it just being really important for equity building and making sure that everyone's voice in your coalition is contributing to the direction of the work that you're doing. So thank you all so much for your ideas. This was a really productive brainstorm for sure.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alexia.
No, it's totally okay. I just wanted to uplift this last comment from Indy where they said high quality arts education is high quality education, period. It's multidisciplinary, culturally responsive, and student-centered. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, very well put, Indy. Thank you for that addition for sure. And important to frame it. We are having this discussion just talking about arts education, but you're exactly right. It's a key key piece of education, of the full picture of education. Great, thanks. All right, so we're going to take a quick break already because our next activity is longer. So let's come back together and think about the ecosystem in which we all work. You know, we're in an ecosystem right now. This is our statewide convening, but we each have a unique ecosystem that we'll be working in. So the graphic up on the screen is something that we share frequently every year at the Leadership Institute. For those of you who have attended this event before, this is something you've seen, I'm sure, but it's important to revisit it every single year. It is based off of a diagram created by Americans for the Arts, and it maps out the various participants and contributors to the arts education that every student receives. I really want to emphasize with this graphic that there's many ways to organize this information, display this information. This is one way to do it. So what we're going to do now is give everyone just on their own a little bit of time to engage with this diagram, think about it. We have some questions we want you to think about that will help you orient yourself, locate yourself, and think critically about this model. So we'll give you about 5 minutes. Here are your questions that I want you to run through as you think. So who are you in the ecosystem? Where would you place yourself? Who is missing from this model? And think about organizations, individuals, whatever scale makes sense to you, but we want to have a quick review from everybody's perspective about who isn't represented on this graphic. Then move to thinking about who you are already connected with, and then finally who you want to be connected with. And this final question we'll be thinking about in groups as well. So take 5 minutes to answer these questions for yourself, and then we'll come back together, talk about it for a minute or two, and then go into breakouts to sort of strategize about this fourth question. Any questions about what you'll be doing or about the graphic? Okay, I'm going to give us 5 minutes. Well, let's do this. When you're done, can you raise your hand on Zoom? Like not your, I mean, you can raise your real hand, but you know how to raise your virtual hand at the bottom, reactions. If you just put your hand up, and then we'll know when everybody has gone through and answered the questions, and we can move on. Sound good? Great, thank you. Come back together when everybody's ready.
I also provided the link to the Arts Ed ecosystem in the chat. So if you ever need to refer to it again, it's right there. So you can always copy that and have that.
Could you include the questions in the chat too? Because I think I've already forgotten 2 of them.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
we can go back, I think, and keep that on the slide.
Yeah, let's do that. And can I see your question? For these 4 answers, just think you can jot them down for yourself. Self-reflection, and then the last question will be the topic for your breakout rooms in a few minutes. A great question. Everybody have what they need? Oh, thanks, Chantal. So your questions are on the slide and also in the chat. just a reminder when you are done answering these 4 questions to raise your Zoom hand on the reactions tab on the bottom. Okay, that was 5 minutes. It looks like we've got maybe 2/3 of hands up. I'll give you another 30 seconds to finish up and then we'll move on. Ken, I've been seeing your thumbs up, so you're all good. Okay. Great. So before we go into breakout groups, let's talk about question number 2. I think that's an important one for us to share all of our perspectives on who we feel is missing from this ecosystem as it's laid out in this particular diagram. So chat, come off mute, however you feel like sharing, but please let us know who you think is missing from this diagram.
Hi. I struggled at first to really picture who was missing from this list. It's pretty comprehensive, but there were a few that popped in my mind that I'd like to know what others think. The first one I thought, we had teaching artists listed, but not artists in general, right? And I do think that our local artists are connected to our schools in various ways. So that was my first one. The second one was advocacy or convening groups. And I think that those have, like Create California, have played a much larger role in the last year during COVID in connecting us all, and so that we can move our work forward. And then the last one that popped in my mind, and this is really, I feel like, included in community organizations, but is pretty important as well, are donors. It was something I was thinking about, but again, connected with community organizations or nonprofits or local PTA, PTO, but also crucial to our work continuing for many of us. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. We're getting a lot in the chat. I just want to call out here. So we have from Michelle, local universities or institutions of higher learning. Absolutely. Can, incarcerated youth. Kelly, artists, school support groups other than PTA, PTO. Very good. Can, again, funders. Exactly. Allison, the California Department of Education leaders, local regional funders, federal leaders. Great. So sort of taking it to the next level, thinking maybe at the state level and then the federal level. Kara, indigenous communities. I missed yours. Mina, here's Mina. We're still working on ways to include school counselors in the conversation. They're so important in guiding students and key to course selection. Absolutely. Thanks, Mina. Allison is adding the district LCAP committees. Absolutely. Very important place for discussions about arts education in those LCAP committees for sure. Thank you, everyone. Any last, arts businesses for internships, on the job training and mentorship. Great. We got another vote for the district LCAP committees. Wonderful.
Adelaide,
you.
I was going to
yeah.
add environmental agencies. And then city council.
Great. So more
And-
local government.
Yeah. And then I was also thinking when we're saying classroom teachers, I don't know if there's something about some inclusive language there around like our teachers' age, our SPED teachers, our RSP teachers, because those are all people that are impacted and can have impact. And they're the staff that is serving all of the needs of all of the students. So those are a couple of my thoughts.
Such a good point. Yeah, all good points. Thank you. So I just wanted to take this time to again emphasize that this is like the skeleton of the ecosystem, and so I'm so happy we have we can be together to flesh it out, put some meat on the bones of this diagram. Great. Okay, so we're now going to go into breakout rooms, and I really want each of you to share what you answered for this fourth question. Who do you want to be connected with? And so talk about that, and then as much as you can, where you're going to have a good amount of time, think about brainstorm strategies for how you can be connected to that person. Like come up with a strategy for how you'll reach out to that person or group or whatever it may be. And you know, the hope here is that we will be coming, each of you will come out of the breakout session with an action item, a clear step that you can take in order to connect more with other folks in the ecosystem. All right, ready? Here we go. All right, I think we're all back together now. Wonderful. Okay, so before we move on, I just want to take two, three volunteers to come off mute or put in the chat your action step that you're going to take in order to connect with someone new and important in this ecosystem. Come off mute, share, put in the chat, whatever is comfortable. We'd love to hear what the plan is.
Well, we talked a little bit about, you know, other, we had quite a wide range of representation from small cities to bigger, but looking at other city councils that might be within your group. And then the other thing I had mentioned was, you know, LCAP does have those community committees. So how to get, you know, onto those LCAP packs.
Great.
Get on the inside and understand all the terminology under LCAP.
Yeah. Great idea.
And also with the state level, I mentioned to them that a couple months ago, I had a chance to meet with Tony Thurman, the superintendent of public education, and that might be, and he said that the school districts are actually having troubles figuring out how to spend their money for federal.
Yep,
so that
that's
might
true.
be a further conversation for Create CA.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got some great action in the chat here. Susan says, I want to reach out to arts boosters groups throughout our county. Allison, invitation to be a part of an arts plan committee. Great. Sarah, connect with school counselors with our 2 target districts, provide a training on arts ed and SEL. Sarah, we should talk because we're working on a new flyer. SEL student mental health flyer connecting to the new ESSER fund. So let's talk about that. Judy, work with the County Office of Ed to reach and educate counselors. Great. Debbie is going to reconnect efforts to engage school board members with our Arts Education Alliance. Fantastic. Great ones, great action items. Thank you all. Okay, so we're going to now move into the next phase of this welcome. Chantal, advance whenever you can. Thank you. And we're just going to talk briefly. I'm really going to fly through these. Just about quick overview of the program for folks who are new. Oh, hold on. Amanda has a last minute addition. Amanda's going to think about which businesses can be advocates by seeing the impact of the arts on the economy. Great one. Thank you, Amanda. So I'm going to just talk quickly about the program. this is really for the new folks, and for anyone who is returning, please come off mute and correct me, add commentary, whatever. You're welcome to contribute, but I just wanted to make sure that we all are on the same page about what is offered to you by participating in this program. So first, Annual Leadership Institute. It's happening, you're doing it. It's throughout September. We have 5 sessions. You've all, if you're here, you've seen our sign up graphic, so we've got that covered. The technical assistance piece to help you reach and achieve your specific goals, that is a piece that is really going to be spearheaded by Alexia. So Alexia is here to help you one-on-one, to convene small groups, either based on other folks working in similar geography or working on a similar project. Alexia is your go-to there. For advocacy resources and tools, with the combination of the California Alliance for Arts Education and Create California, we just have truly a bounty of toolkits and one-pagers and sample letters and anything you could imagine that you might need and can take and tweak and use for your purposes on our website. If you have questions about those, always happy to direct you to the right place. We also have quite a few new tools and resources coming out in the fall that you will all be the first to hear about. The grant funds, very important. We'll touch on this when we get to our next slide and we talk about timeline, but those grant funds are attached to your action plans that you will submit on October 15th. And so Alexia and I will review those, and that is your application, so to speak, to receive those, that grant funds. And then finally, the learning community and the network across the state. You will be hearing from us in the next couple of weeks about laying out our schedule for the Arts Now meetups that we'll be having throughout the year. We'll have one once a month starting in October. We'll skip spring break. I guess that's April, but from now until June, when we wrap up this program year, we will have the opportunity to come together at least once a month, in addition to the workshops and webinars that are happening throughout the year. Here, this next slide, thank you, Chantal. This is our timeline. Oops, thanks, Chantal. Our timeline, so you can see we're in the middle of our Leadership Institute right now in September. On September 20th is your due date for your leader agreement, which you as an Arts Now leader sign, and your fiscal sponsor agreement, which is the document that your 501c3 fiscal sponsor will need to sign. If you do not have a fiscal sponsor, we will help you figure that out. So reach out. I know this is a repeat of an email, but it's always good to receive information in a couple of different ways. Our next important deadline is October 15th. That's when you'll submit your action plans. I want to remind everyone that our final session of the Leadership Institute is centered around the action planning process. So we'll take those 90 minutes to work together, go through the action plan briefly, but really get you into groups, small groups, to begin crafting your goals together. So you'll leave not only with a goal that you created for yourself, but also a beautiful Google Doc that has other sample goals that your other colleagues will be working on. So following that last session, you'll really be well positioned to complete that action plan pain-free. Then in the winter, we'll have a check-in. Obviously, those are also happening throughout. And then in the spring, we're going to be doing, for those of you who are returning leaders, we'll be doing the final reporting process in a similar way to how we did it last year. So your narrative written report will be due at the beginning of June 1st, and then throughout the month of June, once a week, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for a slot or a session, and we'll come together in small groups and talk through the work that we've accomplished over the previous year, share feedback for Create California, ideas for the future, that kind of thing. So that is our trajectory in this program. Any questions about program components, forms, due dates? anything logistics related. I'll send this to you via email multiple times. You've already gotten it. You'll get it again, so don't worry. We will remind you. Wonderful. Okay. Can keep going, Chantal. I think we just have a question slide and then we can pass it over to any last call on questions. No. Okay. Great. That means I didn't go too fast. Wonderful. Okay. Over to you, Alexia, to do some social media reminders for everybody.
Yes, we can go on to the next slide. Perfect. So up next, just a reminder, we'll see you next week, September 9th at the same time, 3:30 to 5 p.m. for Introduction to Grassroots Organizing. And then some reminders with social media. Each month, you'll be provided with a different social media toolkit via the newsletter. And there's just a bunch of different tools, social media wise, that you can utilize to help increase visibility. And then we also have some Zoom backgrounds that you can definitely use. I will try to link those in the chat so you have them. Give me one moment. This is a folder that has those different Zoom backgrounds, and later I can also link the toolkit. And just a reminder for Instagram and Twitter, please follow us so you can stay up to date and you can tag us as well. So our handle is at create_CA. You can find us on Facebook as well, Create California. And then as you see, these are some of our hashtags that we use. So if you're posting anything, please feel free to use those. And again, you can tag us. We have concluded the welcome session. If there's any questions, we have a few moments to take them, but other than that, I think we've concluded. And again, please get those Zoom backgrounds, the September toolkit as well.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We will stick around if you have any lingering questions, but fantastic to see you all. Excited to see you next week and throughout September.